Hello there, and welcome again to Beyond the Borders. I'm so excited because this specific episode has a special guest for you. I cannot wait to start unpacking. And I decided that today I'm not going to bore you with reading a biography, but rather I'll speak to different titles that my guest has and we'll start discussing. So, today's episode has a woman called Miriam Abed. I'm so excited to introduce her to you because she's doing things that are moving the needle in this community of Montreal. If you've not gotten to meet her, I'm very sure somehow you'll meet her if you live in Montreal. She is a real estate broker. She is a woman biker. Yay, to women bikers. She is also the founder and CEO of MTLhive. And MTLhive is a space for ambitious and driven women to come together, learn together, not compete, not compare, but encourage each other. And if you have not heard of this space, I encourage you to join because I am part of this space and I mean, the results speak for themselves. So join me in conversation officially with Miriam Abed. Miriam, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Arnella. Like I said before the podcast, thank you so much for this amazing opportunity to appear here and before your people. And congratulations on the podcast. I'm very proud to be part of it and proud of you as well for this.
Thank you so much because I feel like MTLhive really reflects this kind of space where you go and find other women who are launching different things, and it just encourages you to start from where you just are. You don't have to start perfect, but slowly things get better, I would say. So thank you for coming on the podcast, but specifically, you know that this podcast is about immigration and all. So I'll just like to start with you walking me through what's your immigration story, if you don't mind sharing, of course. And yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. It's a pretty common story, I think, for people my age and my generation. I arrived here with my family at the age of 18. Like a lot of families come here with children and even young adults. And it's funny because next year is going to be 18 years I'm here and 18 years that I've lived in Algeria.
Wow.
So yeah, it feels like a long time ago, but it also feels like yesterday.
Wow, that's
Yes.
really nice. And it's impressive because I couldn't tell that it's been 18 years. I could think it's 40 years
Oh
or
my
30
God,
years
like-
that your parents moved here. But I'm so impressed because you've achieved a lot for somebody who's moved from your country. And not to dismiss any courage for people who are living there, but I feel like you've taken so much space, so much opportunity. And I want you to speak to that inspiration, that courage that you have on doing so many things, because I feel like each title I did mention requires a full-time commitment for
Thank you.
an ordinary person like myself.
Honestly, no, you're not. You're far from ordinary, and nobody's ordinary unless they decide to stay ordinary. So, thank you for all of that. Honestly, I think last year was a very important year in my life. It was my pivot year, where I actually got to do all these things at the same time. Because before I was in the corporate world, like most people, and that's how it goes for most immigrants. You get here and you try to fit into the system. You try to go back to school. Many of us actually have to go back and start school again. For me personally, I had to redo CEGEP, and I wasn't very happy about it back then. It actually caused me very bad, I would say, depression back then. And it was also because I was a young, frail adult who didn't know what life was. So being told I'm going back to waste maybe 2 years of my life to get exactly back where I was in Algeria, because the system is different over there. And I was already in university at 17 years old. And then I had to do CEGEP again. So it's a lot of steps that immigrants have to put up with when they get here that are not necessarily, back then I wouldn't see it as an important or a necessary step in my process, but I still had to do it. So these things you don't really get back. It's the time that you lose trying to build from scratch again. And it's mainly nothing for me, the 2 years. I'm talking about my parents and all other immigrants who are more older and who get here and have to redo a whole career and go back to school. I saw my dad maybe at 55 or even older go back to school to Polytechnique and go every day and have his books, Took a lot of courage. My mom as well, spent so many nights studying. So it's really not just about me. It's about the whole family. But that also made me like wanna always do more. Seeing my parents and all these immigrants around me, like whether they're old or young, do so much more for themselves and always strive for a better life, because that's why we're here. It all pushed me to always want more. And last year was the year that I said, that's it, I'm going for so much more. And I'm
I
not stopping.
love it. I love it. And I think you covered so much in
Sorry.
that's what I love about you, because you really can cover a lot in one conversation. And what I love about what you just shared is somebody moves from their country when they're like a doctor. They come here and they just have to have humble beginnings because their experience does not necessarily transfer, or it's not given credit. And they're willing to go work a job that they're underqualified for. And not to say that there's a job that is better than the other in some sense, but because every job is necessary. I mean, thanks to people that do jobs that maybe don't require so much degrees, but those jobs are also very needed in whatever level of society. But having that humility to know that you've been a doctor for 18 years and going back to school so that you satisfy a specific requirement, once you become a doctor, I think you become an unstoppable doctor. And that's what I love about the story of immigration, is because sometimes you'll be forced to face a version of you that you might not face when you stay where it's comfortable in your home country per se. So I want you to speak to that. What do you think moving from your home country to coming here has uniquely handled you in terms of resilience, in terms of courage, in terms of moving above your limits? Because of course your parents, I'm very sure, have also given you a great example. Like you did mention, your dad had to go back to school at the age of 55. Like, man, you really have to have some courage.
They had to. Honestly, I'm very proud, like to be part of such a family that we all had something within us that said, let's not give up. We know it's not gonna be easy, so we're gonna go and make it happen for ourselves. I'm very happy and humbled actually to have such parents, because not everybody has families like that. Some families, unfortunately, they are not willing to do what it takes to better their lives, and they would just be, they're content of the situation, whether it be at back in the home country or even here. Some of them just come and they want a simple life, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's all like perfect if somebody's happy and fulfilled. But what happened for us is that we always felt like we didn't fit in back at home, because I don't know, some people are just born with such a drive and like a different mindset that you're like, where do I even fit, you know? So when we were back there, we felt like we were different. So we thought like we'd go and strive for this freedom and ambition and have all this. And Canada looked like a place where you actually can make all these dreams come true.
Yeah, some people call it a promised land, for sure.
It is. So you know there is a possibility, only if you're willing to put in the work. And that's what my parents told us we will do. And that's what we did when we got here, all as a family, honestly.
I love that part where you said only if you're willing to put in the work, because some people just think like something that is going to be automated. And this is what also I always say to encourage people who like are applying for their visas and they get rejected. Sometimes I say, listen, it's not a ticket to heaven that you have missed. You really have life to figure out on the other side. So don't be so sad. You could still make it wherever you are. If it didn't work out, maybe it's a sign that, you know, you're being redirected to a different plan. So now I want to pivot. I want to go into your career. Let's start with real estate broker to begin with, because finance is a huge part of immigration. Not just because you have to prove it, show your bank statements, whatever thing you have to do, but even when you move to that country, you want to make huge purchases, starting from a car. Me, myself, I'm speaking for myself. To get to the car that I have right now, I went to so many dealers, and with these specific things, and sometimes your credit score involved, and some people would want to take advantage of you. Some people would want to give you a great product, and sometimes you don't know where to go. And not even just speaking for a car. Now, think about a purchase of like a home. It's such a huge investment. If you don't have the right team, the right people, it's gonna be a mess. So I want you to speak to that.
Yeah, honestly, I also came into this career as, I would say it was a calling. And just to give you a very like a brief story, I was stuck in traffic coming back from commute from my last corporate job. And I listened to the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad in the car. And it's going to sound really like, I don't know, childish, but I got sad that night because I felt like I was lied to for like the longest of times. Because myself too, I was spending on trips and cars and shoes and clothes, but I never actually thought of doing something bigger for myself, like trying to achieve actual financial freedom so I can stop working for someone one day. So that book opened my eyes for the first time in my entire life to the possibility of what if me too, through real estate, I can achieve financial freedom for myself and do much more with my time, like the Hive or like anything else that I would want to build in this community. And I got really depressed that night. I was crying. Marco, my fiance, was like right next to me and he was trying to tell me, it's okay, it's not too late, you're not that old. And I was like, no, I wasted 15 years of my life not doing the right thing. So that's what brought me to real estate. It's not the easy commissions. It's not the easy, I'm getting rich and I'm going to drive a luxurious car. It's really, I want to achieve financial freedom for myself and help so many more like people get there with me, especially immigrants. I see my parents now and they're still not retired at their age. And that's like, they're closer to 70s now. Like, and I feel bad. I honestly feel bad that they didn't get to retire at like 60 or 65 and they didn't really get that chance because they had to sacrifice so much for us. And I know they're not the only immigrants doing that. So all of us, we would spend probably 20, 30, 40 years just working for somebody trying to build that little saving account or RRSP, or I don't know what people use these days, but it's not a solution. So real estate for me was really to start thinking big. What can we do for ourselves so that in 20 years, I am set to have like the best retirement, to have time to write books, to have time to do community work. And people don't realize, yes, it's a big financial step. But yeah, if you are surrounded by people who see the bigger picture, who understand the sacrifices you made to get that first house, I think it's a winning formula. So that's it. That's
for sure. I love how you put it. And I think you mentioned something. I think you did not waste that time. And this is a conversation I also had with Sebastian. It was about that. It's your time in the corporate world. Sometimes you're learning the system. And once you start to create your system, you know what to do. You know how to treat employees. You know how to, the right systems that work, the way to operate things. And it's a humbling experience sometimes, but it's also to know when it's the time to actually launch and do your own thing and to know, you know what, I've outgrown this space and it's time to launch the thing on my own. So now I also, since you have so many titles, please, I want to speak to every title. I want to speak to you being a woman biker. I say this because I don't think there's so many women bikers out there. At least for me, I was born and raised in Rwanda. I didn't see as many women bikers, but I know that people use bikes sometimes as a way of transport, even system, not just to have fun. But rarely do I see women riding bikes. So talk to me about that passion.
honestly, I don't think I've ever seen a woman ride a bike back in Algeria either. It's not a common thing, and if they did, I've never seen them myself.
Crossing limits there. Okay.
So I don't know if I would be riding a bike back in Algeria. That's another story. But I've had this passion ever since I was probably early 20s over here. But early 20s are a very bad time for people. They're mostly were reckless drivers, and I'm going to admit it. So I'm very happy that I didn't get to do my license in my early 20s. Maybe I wouldn't have been as good now. But you're right, more and more like women are getting into it now, but I would still say we're considered like a minority compared to like the actual like world of bikes where it's dominated by males. Nothing against that, but ladies, we need to wake up. But yeah, it's just, I think it's a mix of adrenaline, courage, and recklessness all together.
Risk. So much risk involved.
Somebody who needs all these three together, but you have to have a head on your shoulders, honestly, if you want to be safe and like continue living a life that's full. And that's my wish, honestly. I didn't get into a bike so I can be another story or another statistic, like they call us. And yeah, that's what I'm trying to spread. Like, you can be a safe rider, still have fun, still be part of a big community. In Montreal, we are a huge community. We meet literally every night during the summer. And yeah, it's just another world of passionate people, I'd say.
Awesome, awesome. I love that. I think there's so much risk involved, but also, like you said, I feel like there's nothing guaranteed in this world. Nowhere safety is guaranteed. You can have a car crash, a plane crash. So just choosing what your risk is going to be, I guess, your way of being safe. I also now want to speak to, oh my gosh, the space that I enjoy the most, MTLhive. Why women? Why that space? What does it mean for you to hold such a huge space?
Thank you. Well, thank you for being part of it. First of all, Ornella, you've been there since the beginning, even before the beginning, actually, the behind the scenes. So briefly, my story is that I didn't decide to leave corporate on my own. I was let go, unfortunately, and that was my first time ever being let go from a corporate position. And for the last few years, I started choosing a different way of seeing life. Anything that happens to you, it's either going to be an opportunity or a setback. And it's really up to you to see it, either or. And for the last couple years, I've been seeing everything that happens to me as an opportunity, no matter what the situation is. Because nothing lasts forever, and nobody stays in the same spot unless they decide to. Again, it's always a matter of what do you want for yourself. So when I was let go from my last experience, I felt it had to do a lot with my my being as a woman, my identity, and all of that's attached to me being a woman. And I felt like my voice was actually it was sorry for the I didn't find the word in French, dérange.
It was disturbing.
My voice was a bit disturbing in that kind of world. So the hive was really born from me trying to get back my voice and also give back my voice to all the women who really are being silenced for so many reasons out there. So that's it. It literally was born from conversations.
It's so beautiful because there's something about women when once they break that specific, I don't know, is it the box that is there or whatever is like holding you, you pave a way for other women. And I'm so grateful to be part of it because for me, it paints a picture of a high school I attended. I must say that I'm so lucky. If you did attend Gashora Girls, you know what I'm talking about. I was lucky back home. Somebody actually from the US, Susie, I do thank you a lot for doing that, did go and invest in girls and create a space that looks similar like to yours. And what I loved about it is that it encouraged me as a woman because it was a women's school or girls' school, I should say. And growing up in that environment, knowing that I have the freedom to express what I think, which I think somehow has shaped the way even I speak because I attended the debate school when I was there and debate competitions and represented my school at one point. And I think those things shape who you are and as a teenager. So I'm really grateful. But now having that as an adult at the MTLhive is like really a changer in some sense. Now I want to speak to going back to how do you define feminism? Let me, before I get further in the questions.
God, I think I don't even know how to answer the question anymore. I feel like a lot of people now, like, if you're a feminist, you're not a good person. And if you're not a feminist, you're not a... Feminism to me is just giving a space for women to be themselves freely without having to justify. That's the feminism I stand for. It's just every woman should have equal opportunity, equal voice, equal space, and just be able to be herself and just act in a way that's good to her and to her society and stands by her values without being persecuted. That's the
message
my
you give.
definition.
Okay. I love it. And I'm asking you this question intentionally because you did talk about it last time in our conversation that we had. And I love the way you really define feminism in some sense. Like you did say, we're not equal, but we could achieve equity, which means everybody shows up in their power. I I'm not competing. I'm not competing against a man, but I'm showing up as a woman and what's in me. And if I ever need to have education or food or whatever that is for you, that opportunity should be presented to you, and you should choose to do what you admire or desire to do. So that's why I really asked you the question. I didn't want it to slip off because some people take it as competition, and I don't think I like that connotation of it. So now I want you to tell me, do you think if you had stayed in your home country, your life would have stayed the same? Or do you think there's so much that you have gained as an immigrant that has allowed you to move beyond the borders? Because some people, per se, might be born in this country but never see the opportunities that this country offer because, again, because you're born in it, you just sometimes take it for granted. So, do you think there's a way your eyes were opened or you were pushed and you say, you know what? If I have the pain, it has to be worth it.
Thank you so much. I love this question actually. What happened is I was always like, I was first of my class, my entire elementary, and like then I don't know how they call it here. The second school that you attend.
Middle school? Maybe?
Middle school, sorry. And I was always I was a good student, one of the best. I was always the top 3. But I was always rebellious. That's the part that most people wouldn't understand and didn't understand back then. How could you be so good in school and like always like almost like, you know, trying to be better and do all these good things, but also have this very rebellious side. And I've always had that rebellious side. I one day even organized a strike. We didn't go to class because I didn't like the way things were going. So one didn't stop the other. However, I'm bringing this up because I felt like in my country, I would never be able to have that freedom to be absolutely, completely myself, unfortunately. I have nothing against my country. I have nothing against my culture. I love my being a Muslim, and I found like peace in all of these things. But a lot of things over there and in many countries still, not just Arab countries, many countries do not respect the freedom of people to choose who they want to be. You have to be like everybody else, and if you're not, you're persecuted again. That's the word I didn't like to be attached to myself or anybody I love for that matter. So me being free implied that I wasn't going to listen to many of the rules. I wasn't going to just obey. I wasn't going to just say yes and I will do this because everybody else is doing it. I'm not that type of person. So yes, coming to Canada, to Quebec, gives you that freedom to be fully yourself, but it's not free. You have to fight for it still.
That's true.
Because when you get here, you're still attached to your roots, and now you want to grow some wings, and you're like literally split in two, and you're like, my roots are back there, my wings are here. Who am I in this, you know? That's why I think it took me also all these years to figure out exactly who I want to be last year. And I think that's why last year was my biggest and my most eye-opening year. And now I fully just am myself, and I'm grateful for Quebec to giving people this opportunity to be themselves.
That's really awesome. And like you did mention, I feel like leaders don't blend in. And I read an article that talks about high agency and how people who are actually meant to be leaders, sometimes they don't find a reason for doing something just because everybody else is doing it. They'll just need some reason that makes a logical sense. If it's not, they're going to be rebellious, like you're saying.
We're not doing it.
So sometimes there's a good side to it. And like you did say, I feel like there's so much immigrants have to bring to whatever country they immigrate to, because once they move, they bring their culture with them. I mean, you don't have to fly to China to eat Chinese food. And I always say that I love poulet rouge. And listen, I don't think it's a typical Canadian dish. And I love Haitian food. It's not something I've tasted when I was back home in my country, but I'm grateful for those Haitian immigrants that brought their food with them. So yeah, there's always something to give for them. But also, as an immigrant, you always have to choose what you have to let go sometimes, just because what you brought in, there is a positive aspect to it, but maybe there might be a challenging aspect that you brought in as well. I don't want to use the word negative because of different reasons. Now, I want you to tell me what you think. And now I'm getting to the last two questions that I always ask people. What you think are the limits that you are trying to cross right now, or borders that you're trying to move beyond?
Thank you. Honestly, at this stage, I'm still very like influenced by all these things that we talked about, like my origins, the people I am with right now. Like I have so many communities that I belong to, and I'm very like grateful for that. The bike, the calisthenics, now the real estate. Previously, like the women, even the women community, I'd say entrepreneurs. So we're always influenced, and we're always trying to pick a few things from each community that we belong to, and it's a beautiful thing to do. But however, I feel a lot of these communities, instead of uniting, like people usually, like I would say people should unite, no matter the community they belong to. Sorry about that. So I don't want to have those limitations of, oh, I'm Arab, oh, I'm Muslim, oh, she's a woman, oh, she's a real estate. I want to remove all these aspects and just become a human and see how good life gets, you know?
I like that.
It's funny, but I have a tattoo that says a human on my neck. And one day I was just tired of people like telling me, oh, but you're Muslim, but you're Arab, but you're Algerian, but you're in Quebec. All these things don't matter. Like, show me what you're doing with your life as a person, as a human being, what you're doing around yourself and with the people you actually belong with. So that's the limitation, and I want to remove. Whether I'm a woman, whether I'm a real estate broker, a biker, it doesn't really matter. I just want to have a legacy of somebody who wants to make a difference.
I really like that because with all the division that is going on in the world, in politics and all, people always forget to connect to that fact that they're human beings, and that maybe if you're some leader, that there are people who are below your authority who are waiting upon you for their paychecks or for their taxes or whatever decision. I think always coming back to that connection of being a human being is really an important aspect of things. Thank you so much for sharing that. So now my last question is, if you were to meet somebody who recently moved, I don't know, Montreal, Quebec, or in Ontario, or whatever part of the world they choose to immigrate to, and they're having to relearn everything, of course, you're lucky because you had your family. Some of us just moved by themselves and had to find their specific family. But what would you advise to that person?
I have to say something about moving with a family and moving versus moving alone. Family is amazing, but they could also be a limitation.
Okay, speak to that aspect.
We have to say it like at some point, because when you come alone, then everything becomes your choice. Yes, you struggle more. Yes, it's harder. But when you come with a family, they have expectations of you and for you. So it's very hard to get out of that mold on your own.
That's true.
You have more freedom to make choices earlier for yourself if you're alone. But I'm still very grateful for the family part. They're there to rescue. They're there to support when things go bad. So that's a chance as well. But somebody who moves here alone, I would say, get out of your comfort zone. Don't come here and look for people that look like you.
That's true.
Go and try to meet people who have nothing to do with you. Find yourself hobbies. Start to do the things you wanted to do back home that you couldn't do. For me, for example, I always wanted to be in sports. And unfortunately, where I was, it wasn't really possible for women to be that like big on sports. So going to the gym now, being part of the calisthenics like community in Montreal a few years ago, it was really like helpful, all these things. So do all the things you want to do and meet people through these things. You will discover a version of yourself that you didn't know existed, honestly. That's what you need.
That's really powerful. And I think I'll just take that note to end here. But I think I would not have gone out of my comfort zone to go to a Toastmasters club and meet you, Miriam. This conversation would not have happened. So one thing leads to the other. And it's easier and it's comfortable for people to stay in their kind of zone and stay in the communities of people whom they share the same, let's say, national ID in some sense, but identity in some sense, but also push yourself to go out there. That's the reason you moved to that country, so that you could embrace whatever it has to offer. So, yeah, we'll end on that note. So, until next time, keep rewriting your story, crossing limits all the time, and leaving beyond the borders. Bye.